Hello everyone, my name is Sydney and this is a video where the first 5 minutes are actually constructive and helpful, and if you want to know how to rebind your books for your own creative projects, that's your area. After that, the next 25 minutes is me just doing whatever I want until the final product is created. I really love the Rick Riordan, Percy Jackson universe. It has been my favorite book since I read them in middle school, and that has only grown as the universe has expanded into the full 44 books that it is. And I, being the extra person that I am, really wanted to make a collection that was sincerely my own and one of a kind. And because I'm a creative soul, I thought might as well use the skills that I have curated over my entire lifetime of being in gifted and talented art programs and make my books my own. This video will only be focusing on the primary books, not the companion books, because I ran out of time and patience. So those will possibly come to you in a future video. So if you just want to know how to do this yourself, watch the first 5 minutes. If you would like to see me create something that I love so much, watch the other 25. But here we go.
Jumping right in with a hack that I found on YouTube for getting rid of discoloration. You just simply sand the edges of your pages and it magically gets rid of it. Here's the result of that. It even gets rid of permanent marker. I'm using craft paper that I got at Michael's, and I'm giving my book about an inch or two margin to work with when we fold it over. I tried using fabric on some experiment books, and I just think paper is the way to go. This next part is pretty straightforward. I am simply gluing things on and folding things over. So you're just going to want to put a thick layer on. Make sure you brush it out, because if you don't, things get really globby and the paper can show through. But I'm using a card and my own hand, and I'm just smoothing out any air bubbles, making sure that things are as clean as they can be. Make sure to really get in them grooves and be prepared for this to obliterate your hand muscles, because this collection has been done for several days and my hand still hurts. On second thought, that's probably just because I did 19 books. If you're only doing 1 or 2, you'll probably be fine. So now I am using an X-Acto knife and cutting at the beginning and end of that groove between the front and the spine, also that I can fold around the text block. So here I am giving myself guidelines because I noticed in a lot of the research videos that I watch of actual professionals rebinding books, they cut off the corners so that the actual corners in the end look very clean and straight. Don't ask me how this works, because I don't understand math that well, especially not folding mechanics. And so I did that myself. I think it worked pretty well. And you're gonna basically do the same thing you did on the outside, on the inside, put that glue on there pretty thick, brush it out, and then fold it in. The only thing you need to watch out for here is the corners, because if you cut off too much, you expose the corner that was already there. And now for the most difficult part of this folding technique, the spine. Just put some excess glue in there, and then use your fingernail and just kind of shove it in there as best you can. There's not really any guidance for this. Here is the final result. I think it looks pretty good, and some of these books really needed the help because they were held together by tape in 4 places, because I refuse to buy books, I only thrift them.
So it takes me 20 minutes, even without the camera on, without distractions. It takes me 20 minutes to wrap 1 book. That's a Kane Chronicle book sitting over there drying. I have 24 or something to do.
Many hours later.
5 more to go. I only have the Heroes of Olympus left. Big boys. My hand hurts. Hurts a lot. I have expedited the process to 15 minutes, about 15 minutes. So that means I have a rate of about 4 per hour, which I find hard to believe because I've been here forever. But I'm also almost done. So
welcome back to Editing Sydney. Now is the part where you simply paint it however you want. All I ask is that you paint the inside first, because when you put the cover page on, you don't want to have to paint around it. Also, you might want to consider being careful or covering the text block so you don't get paint all over the edges as I did. Okay, so now that they're all painted, now I am removing the original cover page with an X-Acto knife and then just tearing it out. And then I am lining up my new cover page with the text block. You are probably going to have to trim the whatever paper that you're using, so make sure to check the dimensions first before gluing anything in. And then I am just taking some glue, putting it right in that crevice there, brushing it out again, and then stick it in there, press it in with the card as much as you can. And then I check to make sure that the page actually fits in the text blocks when the book is closed, and I'm just cutting off any excess that I see. And then I am gluing it in the same way I did the covers, just with a little less glue because this is not thick paper like the craft paper, but it is cardstock. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of glue, but not too much that's going to seep through.
So this is my thing here. The main series, that was my knee, is orange for Camp Half-Blood. And then Heroes of Olympus is purple for Camp Jupiter. My friend Julia gave me this idea. The Kane Chronicles is red because they just feel red to me. And then Trials of Apollo is yellow. I only have 3 of them. And then the Magnus Chase are blue because they feel blue to me.
Okay, we are in the thick of part 2 now, so I am no longer teaching you things. From this point on, I am just vibing, okay? So, what you are looking at currently is the original covers before I did anything to these books. And you'll notice that they're all different colors, which would be fine, but my brain hurts looking at it personally. I like conformity when it comes to sets of things, so that is why they're all black, and I decided on a gold and black theme. And the second thing that you will notice is that they don't match in any way, shape, or form. The numbering. Some of them are numerals, some of them are actual numbers, some of them say book 1. What is happening here? The third thing that you'll notice is the logos. The Percy Jackson and Magnus Chase books are written out, but the other ones all have logos. Why did we do this? Fourth thing you're going to notice is the Riordan. I get that the books are skinnier and that's why they did it sideways, but it bothers me, so I need them all uniform. The fifth thing that you're going to be looking at is the title fonts and sizes. They're all very different and it irks me greatly. So all of these things combined were really messing with me, and I had to decide what I liked the best out of all of them. So here is my final design that I went with. I went with the horizontal Riordan. I decided to make all of the logos into a circular coin shape. I decided to go with numbers as the book numbering system. And for the titles, I went with the original font from the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series and the larger first letter system from the Heroes of Olympus books.
Okay, so this is my setup. I have all 5 of the Percy Jackson and the Olympians right here. And what I do first is I take my little stamp that I made, right? Again, I looked up some designs because obviously the Percy Jackson original spine had just put Percy Jackson and the Olympians written out. But I looked up some logos and this is what I ended up finding. I'll put up a picture. And this is what I ended up creating. Yes, it's made out of an eraser. And so my first step is making sure that all of the books are lined up, and then try to wipe off as much of the ink as I can, because if you go too ham, too fast, things get a little crazy. Then I just press it on at a point that feels right. Isn't it so cute? I kind of think they look like little coins.
So I really vibe with them. And I am using this website called fontmeme.com, and the Percy Jackson series uses the Windlass font, and anything I type into this website and in that font, it will make for me. So what I did is I typed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for all of the books. So now I know what the numbers look like. And I then type in the titles for later. I don't know how to show you this without, again, messing up my spine. I literally just draw her on there. Then I draw the Riordan. I then fill in this bad boy to my liking. And with some of these, I'm gonna have to go back in with the black, but that's totally fine. It's not like I haven't done it already 12 times. As you'll notice, the Magnus Chase ones, the emblem on the spine is different than the emblem on the front. The emblem on the front is his initials. And Magnus Chase and Percy Jackson are the only two with a full name in them. So I'm going to do the exact same thing for the Percy Jackson series. For reference, I'm going to be taking the Magnus Chase just to make sure that the emblem is lined up where it's supposed to be height-wise, because I almost messed that up on the Blood of Olympus. Okay, so I use that as like the circumference of what I'm trying to work with, and then I use that as a reference for where. Let me play around with some designs on what I want this to look like, and I'll get back to you. Okay, after doing some thinking, this is what I've come up with. I think I'm gonna go with the disconnected but still very close together. This is what we're working with. Okay, try to ignore the lines around it, but that's what she gonna look like, okay? So, I have the Lightning Thief spaced out in a way that I appreciate, and I have the Lightning Thief loaded up on my laptop with the font just for reference. At this point, I've done, again, 14 books. I think I know how to do this lettering at this point. Okay, so this is my first one, and now I'm just gonna go back through and do basically like a double coat and make sure that there's no like see-through areas. Okay, so now is when I go back in with black and pretty much just fix up any mistakes that I made.
2 seconds later.
I'm gonna let these dry, and then in the morning, I'm going to erase, go to the store, pick up some more sealant. Well, I'm going to erase. So spray the fronts and the spines of what I can. And then when I run out of that sealant, estimate how many cans I'll need based on how much I used and how many books I got through. You know? And also pick up a ruler so that I can then come back, spray the rest of them, let them set for a hot second while I finish planning what I'm going to do on the backs. And then when I'm done with all of that, hopefully I can start moving on to the backs, especially of those first ones that I did before going to the store. I thought this project was going to take me like 3 days. I have this thing that Jenna Marbles created called the Too Much Gene. And I have been known to do too much very often. So, if I'm being honest, I might have fucked up today. I woke up this morning, and as we watched the rerun of the 4:30 a.m. U.S. Women's National Team versus Sweden Olympic game, I erased all of my pencil markings on the books. I then proceeded to go outside and spray all of my books.
Hey y'all, this ain't got nothing to do with nothing. I just thought that I looked really cute, so I'm gonna use this clip even though it's just useless. Don't do what I did.
Apparently, mass producing stuff like that might not have been the best option, because I'll show you. So I don't know if you can see it on all of the books, but you can probably see it on like most of them. What is that? What is she doing? Also, my finger hurts holding down a freaking canister of spray
so painful. I literally, at one point, my brain would not send the signal to press the button anymore because it hurt so badly that I had to hold it down with another finger. My thighs hurt from squatting over 19 books for like 30 minutes. Like, oh my God. I'm not even like that inactive. I'm actually a pretty active person. This is like an embarrassing amount of discomfort that I'm in, and this finger genuinely is numb to the touch. I did not have a good time. It was also very hot. I was very sweaty. I then proceeded to come inside and be like, I'm gonna, work on my companion books, or I'm gonna finalize designs. And I sat down and drew one design before I felt myself crash, and I just calmly placed it to the side of my bed, rolled over into a fetal position, and knocked out for a solid 3 hours.
The next day.
Today I'm going to be working on the backs. Luckily, I only did it to the fronts and not the spines, so I will not be needing to re-letter the spines, which is what really is the most time absorbing task. So that is a small blessings, so I could just paint around the emblems in black, and then redo the outsides of the emblems if need be, and then reseal it with the better sealant that didn't do this, and also one at a time with a little bit more patience, maybe. Just again, if you were doing this as only one book, this probably wouldn't be a problem. So you'll be fine, okay? Let me walk you through my designs for the books.
So I'm thinking I leave the fronts all like this bad boy. They'll get the emblems as well. And then I do the fun design on the back, but it'll still be in gold. It'll just be like, for example, this was the cover page in The Last Olympian, which is the last book of the Percy Jackson series, right? So I would just take like something like this, because this book happens in the Empire State Building and that's why this is here. And I would just put this on the back, right?
Several days later.
I tried to make each one like have like a theme, like each series have like a theme. So first ones are the Trials of Apollo. I tried to incorporate a sun into each of them, and I used the covers as inspiration for their backs. And then we have the Magnus Chase, which I have not read, so I was really relying on the covers here. I refused to do people, but I'd do animals, but I was like, people, absolutely not. So if you're like, oh, where's people? I erased them from the concept because I was like, no, thank you. Kane Chronicles. Here, each one of them has that like top part thing. And then the Heroes of Olympus is much easier to see because each of these had pretty prominent designs, so I just incorporated them around this little V thing. And then we have the Percy Jackson. So each of these obviously has the top part as well. That's going to be the skyline and then lightning. Sea of Monsters. I'm really proud of her. She was the only one that I on site was like, that's good. This is Titan's Curse. It is so freaking hard to draw Blackjack. I had to use like 3 different reference photos just to get that pose, because what I wanted it to do, horses just don't do. So the Labyrinth one, she's just gonna be a little weird on paper, but when she gets inked, she'll look good. And then good old Last Olympian, which is just a close-up version of the first one. But yeah, so these are the bad boys. I'll probably make changes as I go when I'm inking them, but we will see. So a lot of measuring went into this. I was very frustrated for a while, but this is the translation onto the book.
and I'm gonna start inking stuff, man. Okay, so here's the first coat, because I really did contemplate doing this in like acrylic paint, like in a gold acrylic paint, because I knew this was gonna happen. So I apparently sent my father on a wild goose chase for gold paint, because I forgot that he doesn't know what art supplies are. I called him and I was like, hey, are you still out? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, can you pick me up some gold paint? It doesn't really have to be anything good or anything like that. And he was like, okay, well, when I get to Lowe's, I'll call you. And I was like, okay, cool. And then like 3 seconds later, I texted him. I was like, why are you going to Lowe's? Go to Walmart or like Michael's. He brought me back the right thing. He did it. It just took so much effort.
The next day,
I got 3 books done. I've discovered that I can do 1 book every 1 hour and 3 minutes because I timed those 3. I thought I was gonna get those 3 done, but then I gave up very quickly into the process.
24 hours later.
Y'all, I only have the first set left. Don't get me wrong, it's 4 p.m. They will not be finished today, but I am so close I can taste it. What was this angle? Why was I doing that to myself? Like, what a betrayal on my own part. So this is me realigning my spine with I'm rewatching all of the Marvel movies, all 24, going on 25 with Black Widow of them. Because my dad and me want to do like a comparison ranking list of like number 1 through 25, you know? And I realized that I haven't watched a lot of them in a while, and so I needed like recent evidence. Hey, my dudes, it's the next day. I'm breaking out. I have spent today erasing the marks on the books and finalizing any last minute details, like things that look like in hindsight, like as a second look over, I didn't have that line clean enough. So I'm thinking that I'm gonna spray the backs tomorrow in the morning, let them dry, I guess relax. And then the next day, I'll do the fronts, let those dry for maybe like an hour or 2, because it really shouldn't take me that long, and also it's acrylic paint, it dries. And then spray those and then let them dry, and then they're done. So this really should only take like 2 more days, and that's just in drying time. You might not see me again until they're done. I'm just spraying stuff now. You already saw me spray stuff beforehand. I just sprayed it incorrectly. That was on me. You just should learn from my mistakes and don't spray like that. Yeah, it might just be a reveal. I don't know.
I was going to sit here and give you guys pretty lovely reveal music, but I decided that I have a lot to talk about, so we're just going to get into that. First things first, I wanted to tell you guys that I bought all of these books secondhand at a website called Thrift Books, and I got 30 books from them for $141.98. That is $4.73 per book, which is insane, and they're all hardback copies. This includes the companion books that I bought as well, and I have 37 out of the 44 books that Rick Riordan has written in this universe. I got some for free, and I got all of them with free shipping, because you only have to have an order of more than, I believe, $10 to get free shipping. So I highly recommend that website if you are somebody who is environmentally conscious or just wants to save some money. Second, I would like to note that this entire process took from July 10th to July 30th of 2021, meaning that is 20 days. You could probably do one book, the entire process, in like 1 to 3 hours, but doing 19 of them with sufficient breaks and stuff, I ended up taking about 20 days to do it. Finally, I am not going to sit here and crap on these books that I am in love with, but there are some things that I will be fixing in the future, just tiny mistakes. But the biggest thing that I want to say is that if you want to do this yourself for a set of books, I highly recommend using a matte varnish because the gloss varnish is actually sticking to each other when they're lined up like this, and it's causing the paint to rip off of the craft paper underneath. All of that said, I am just so happy these are done, and here's some revelation that I had during the making of these books.
These books is the book equivalent of a mullet. We got business in the front, party in the back, man. What? And I'll do the rest of those motherfuckers at a later date.